smart people running companies, they get up early, they're good with people, they're innovative, all that you would think. But the one thing they have in common is that they're always looking ahead. Like they're running their business now, but they're thinking 2, 3, 4 years ahead. They're thinking about hiring and investing and spending all those kinds of things so that they're still in business. That's what these really smart people are doing.
Yeah.
So, and every attendee at a conference is looking for that. They're like, what do I need to know? Like, tell me the future. Now, not that you can, it's tough to tell the future, but the more help that conference organizers can give to their attendees, the more content, the better speakers that can tell them, listen, this is where the world's going, at least over the next couple of years. And
today's guest on the Keynote Curators podcast is Gene Marks. Gene has written nationally for the Washington Post, the New York Times, Philadelphia Inquirer, Forbes magazine, Entrepreneur magazine, Inc. magazine, you name it. Gene is a highly sought after author, business advisor, and keynote speaker. In our conversation, we cover ideas like business growth, processes and efficiencies, and just simply how to run a business and enjoy it. It's a great conversation. I learned a lot, and I know you will too. We appreciate you joining us. Thanks for being with us. You'll be smarter for it. Today is our 50th recording. 50, a number that people usually relate to midlife or a super important birthday. Our guest today is Gene Marks, who is half of 50 in years, but double 50 in experience and wisdom. Gene, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you for having me on. And no, I'm 58 years old, so not even half in 50 in years, but I'm thrilled to be here for the big anniversary podcast. So thank you for having me on.
You're very welcome. Where does this podcast find you today?
So right now I'm speaking from the Jersey Shore. Snooki and the situation are nowhere to be found, but I live year round in downtown Philadelphia.
Gotcha. So you're more South Jersey Shore. My mother's from Long Branch, which I always like to distinguish when people say Jersey Shore. She's not from that Jersey Shore.
Yep. I'm hoping she's not a Mets fan because that's usually it could be cause to end this conversation right now. Usually
let's just say this. I'm a Yankee fan.
Oh my God. Well, Yankees actually I can give a pass to. It's the Mets if you're from Philly that you just hate those guys. And for all of you guys that are watching and listening to this, the Jersey Shore is basically divided in half, So, once you get into central Jersey, it's usually Long Beach Island. It just turns Mets and Yankees, and everything south, it's Phillies and Eagles. So I'm in the very safe and comfortable south part of South Jersey. So
well for all those Yankee haters out there, we're just hovering just above and below 500. So most of the nation is relishing. We're okay with it because, with over 25 titles.
Yeah, you can live with that. It's the Mets that are the hilarious story because they're the ones that spend all this money and just have awful seasons. So
that's the truth. And frankly, a little part of me, it would be nice if they, if they had something. But don't get me started because my Knicks, we're on the precipice of building something, and I don't want to jinx that one either.
Okay, fair enough.
So, Gene, you are a trusted advisor. You speak on the economy, all things technology, financial services. You've spoken to all issues that affect business. Instead of reading through your entire bio and your profile, why don't you share with us kind of where you're at or what brought you to this point and why and how you've become this trusted advisor in publications like The Guardian and Entrepreneur magazine and Inc. magazine and Forbes and whatnot.
So, first of all, if you haven't figured it out by taking a look at this whole package, I am a certified public accountant. I know that comes as a big shock to you, but yes, that is the case. So I
did have ChatGPT look it up. Yeah. And your picture came up under CPA. So
right next to George Costanza. So I run a business outside of Philadelphia. I have 10 employees. I'm a small business owner. We're a technology and financial management, firm. We implement certain technologies. And for the past 20 years, I've been doing lots of writing. So I wrote for about 7 years for the New York Times daily, and I wrote for about 5 years daily for the Washington Post. And now I write for The Guardian and The Inquirer and The Hill and the Chicago Daily Herald and Forbes and Entrepreneur and a few other places. And I cover small businesses, small and mid-sized businesses. So when you cover small and mid-sized businesses, it's like you wear a lot of hats. So I talk about how public policy and the economy is affecting us. And I talk about how technology, like AI, for example, is affecting us. And I talk about how labor is affecting us. And my presentations are like I'm really not that smart a guy. I just because I interview a lot of people for the stuff that I write about, and because I'm very close to a lot of my clients, like I learn a lot from smart people. So when I speak to group, I get invited to speak at a lot of like industry associations, some of the most boring in the world, but they're like the core and heart of America. And I share with them like, here are the issues that I'm sure you're aware of that you're facing, supply chain, inflation, finding people, where to invest in tech. But more importantly, I'm sharing advice that I'm getting from really smart leaders and CEOs of companies all around the country. Like, how are they navigating through these issues? And that's what I talk about. I'm like, okay, we know inflation is high. So, no duh. So what do we do? Like what
Right.
strategy should we have and how do we navigate around that? That's the kind of stuff that I talk about. And it's all based on the stuff that I write about and the stuff that I talk about with my clients.
What is so attractive for me as the keynote curator, your keynote curator, is truly as a small business owner myself, is that you're on the court, you're not in the stand, you're not
Right. I'm dealing with it.
academically or professorially, you're in the game,
Yeah.
and so you have not only skin in the game, but you've cut your teeth, and you're in this very moment vividly dealing with the actual issues that you've been requested to present about.
It's funny that
And
you say that as well, because you're absolutely right. So I'm suffering through all the same shit that every business owner. It ain't heaven. It ain't pretty.
yep,
And I'm signing payroll checks. I'm dealing with finding people. I'm dealing with retaining people. We have higher costs in our business. So all of this stuff I talk about it's very selfishly motivated. I mean, I'm trying to run a company, so I'm talking to all these people. Like, yeah, I'm writing and speaking about it, but I'm kind of like, what are you doing so I can do some of this stuff as well? And okay, let me share it with an audience as well.
as a small business owner or an operator, like a meeting professional who might have an events production company or some type of event management company, you're grappling with everything. You're the chief cook, you're the bottle washer, and everything in between. What I love to do is create some sort of group, or dare I say mentors, but other colleagues that I can bounce ideas off of. And not that we commiserate, but that we have a resource to say, hey, I'm grappling or struggling with this. And this is something that I've been able to transform or have a breakthrough in. It would be valuable, I think, in your situation. Create a group like that, create a structure, create a habit to stay connected with people that are in similar situations, that you can share resources, experiences, and have that breakthrough. And when you do that, you selfishly get clarity with your own business and your own experience. It's a beautiful way. I almost call it the mirror, where sometimes when I'm talking to other business owners, again, often event planners, event meeting professionals, it gives me clarity for my business while they're open and available in our collaboration and partnership to receive contribution. It's a wonderful thing. Let's do it together.
By the way, that's great advice. That really is. And I got to tell you something. Been asked to join different business groups. I have clients that are, and you've heard and are familiar of like business groups where small groups of CEOs or business owners get together. I've literally never heard of anyone say anything but great things about their experience doing it. As long as you're all in, and you're
Yep.
sharing all
Yep.
of your information, you let it all out on the table because that's you get out of it what you put into it.
Right.
And the only reason why I've resisted is just because I travel and I really don't want to let people down by not being able to make meetings. But man, if I was more local, I would absolutely participate in a good business group. It's super important.
Yeah, and the difference between the takers who are out
Yeah,
there direct messaging you, "Hey, let's have a Calendly coffee," and I'm
yeah,
like,
right.
they're roofers. I don't
Yeah,
know what my roof is handled. When I need it, I'll give you a ring. But I want to move this conversation a little bit into, again, sticking with this operator kind
sure,
of mindset. But keep in mind, the overwhelming majority of our listeners, Gene, are meeting professionals, right?
sure.
You deal with them all the time. And
Yeah,
as I said, they're the chief cook, the bottle washer. They're dealing with signage, security, food and beverage, ground transportation, agendas, lighting, AV, offsites, breakout sessions, registration. I mean, the list goes on and on.
And all the shot to Daniels they must be consuming while all of that is going on, because I don't know how they actually do that job. I'd be out of my mind.
Yeah. And they have to perform and execute and deal with aggregating new technologies, incorporating new ways of doing things. The meeting marketplace is very demanding. It's very commoditized. There's, in all of society, there's a, what have you done for me lately? What's new and fresh, and it's just not rearranging the chairs in the round back to more of, a front to back type of thing.
Sure. Sure.
What I'd love to hear from you is not only what are you seeing from your experience, let's say post COVID, we don't really know where that demarcation line is, but generally speaking, getting back into in-person meetings, new technologies, the hybrid meetings, and relate all of that to, this is like a 3-hour answer. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Relating all of that back to incorporating new technologies like ChatGPT or the use of AI in a way that, you said you're not a smart guy. I would take the case. There are very few original thinkers. Many of us are aggregators or synthesizers. And I use the word borrow. Borrow, and then kind of make it my own and bring my own aesthetic and my own voice to it. So just, open mic kind of, what are you seeing, and tie a lot of those ideas together?
So by all means, cut me off if I'm yakking away too much, but I can tell you this is just what I'm seeing with my own eyes. I mean, I speak about 50 to 60 times a year. They're all different size groups and organizations. Obviously, we all went through in COVID where things were, shut down and everybody had to go virtual. Virtual ain't a great thing for most meeting planners and organizations as a primary way to get information out there. I found the best organizations that do this. It's almost like working from home, where it's a hybrid. Everything in life is a balance, and working from home has been a balance. It's not like you don't go fully virtual, remote, or you don't put a gun to people's head and say you got to be in the office all the time. It's 2 days a week. You're in the office, or 3 days a week. It's the same thing for meeting planners and people running events. When people talk about virtual options, it should be an option. I've seen some of the associations that I work with have been successful in including it as another option. So, if you are doing that live event, to have a virtual option for the people that can't make the live event, maybe it's at a discounted price so that people, you don't want to pay for them to come to the event. But if it's half the cost for them to watch it virtually, by all means, you'll have that option available. Everything in this world is about providing options to your customers, and that's for any business. And in this world, you want to have the most people, participating in your meetings. It's about coming out live. It's about doing things, online. And it's also about recording a lot of these things, feeding them up in the future as part of videos, or even having an ongoing podcast where you're interviewing people that are at the events as well and feeding out that content afterwards. All these ways to keep your community connected, because in 2023, there's a lot of different ways to get our information. And you can't just say to people like, oh, you have to come on site to our meetings. Having said that, people do love to come on site because most of the meetings that I go to, people like to see each other and hug each other and shake hands and hang out and drink beers and all that. And I remember there was like a number of meetings right in the middle of COVID. It was like 2020, where like the meeting planners were saying like, our attendees want to come to these meetings. They're not afraid to come to these meetings. A lot of them were like, served in the military. Like, this is not scaring them, COVID, but they had to cancel meetings because the sponsors backed out, because it's a big company thing. And they didn't, companies didn't want to have that liability. So, people do like to come live to these meetings, and that should obviously be your primary thing. But the virtual side of it, as long as you can affordably do it, and make it professional, and then provide additional content connected to that. Again, like videos, podcasts, things like that. These are all the things I'm seeing like really good associations do to keep their members really keyed in. Does that help to start with?
Yeah, it does. I mean, what I'd also like to get from your perspective. I mean, look, you're brought in. I don't like the word boring, but I've talked to my own team about my own social media posts, and I'm trying to bring some pizzazz into it. But really, the heart of the core virtue of my messages on my shorts is, hey, these are things that help meeting professionals enhance, improve, provide structure and
Yep.
direction and fortified the process of booking a speaker, bringing a speaker in, forwarding the message and the mission might not be the sexiest thing alive. So while you say, hey, I deal with some really boring organizations, I take the case that being on the front line and seeing what people are dealing with, I'll use the word again, vivid, in a
Yep.
really, in Spanish we say actualizado, in this very moment, in this actual moment. What do you see given this hybrid tilting back to in person, but there is an alternative or an option to be virtual? What are some things that meeting professionals are doing or you think could be doing to elevate engagement? It's such a hot word, right? Where they're plugged in, where they're activated, where they're animated to lean in a little bit more.
Well, the bottom line is this: my clients that that leave the office, they will leave the office to go and see their kids play soccer or baseball or swim. But then they will leave the office to go to their association meeting or their whatever event is that they're part of their industry. And why are they doing that? There's only two reasons. One is networking, and the other is content. So by all means, you want to provide those networking, opportunities and activities, and that's all good. But these people are looking for content. And I tell you what, I also see if you're running a manufacturing company, a distributor, if you're in field service, if you're running a retail shop, you not only need advice and education to help you run your business better and navigate through all these issues that we all have, because motivational speakers are great and they have their purpose, but these people need operational advice. I mean, even as boring as tax advice. I mean, taxes are 20 to 25% of our income.
Yeah.
And so many of the people I talk to aren't even aware of certain tax credits and certain deductions and certain things that they can
Yeah.
be doing because we sometimes as accountants aren't so great at communicating that. They need that from their association. And the other
Yeah.
thing they also really love from their association is we always want to know what the next guy is doing. Like they like to benchmark. So the more data that you can get from your association members and the more that you can share that data. So if I've got a P&L and I see, my revenues and my overhead expenses and my, general administrative, I want to know, am I spending too much? Are my margins too low? Am I spending higher on travel than like the next guy down the street? Like what are other people in my industry also doing? Like that is like super valuable information. So again, networking is really important, but if you really, really want to help your members, it's about content and
Yeah.
helping them run their businesses better. That's
Yeah.
exactly what they need their associations
Yes.
to do for them.
Why would an attendee come to your meeting? I mean, they want to see colleagues, they want to catch up with old friends, but really, they have a choice. Are they going to go to their child's soccer game? Are they going to go on a date night with their spouse? Or are they going to come to your meeting? It's for networking and it's for content, but that's not enough. You have to make it compelling. It's the messaging. How do you let them know that it's worth it for them to forego other alternatives that are important in their life to come, engage, and get the content that's going to forward their business, that's going to forward their initiatives, and where they can network, maybe expand and grow in sales or all sorts of different capacities. So when you book your keynote speaker, you've got to be hand in glove, like we do with the keynote curators, in using and leveraging the speaker to get that message out. It's not just put on the website or the registration page. We have great content. Come in, get updated. No, what is that content? Tease it out. Make it compelling that they want to come. And not only that, they want to share it with their colleagues. This is what it's going to take for you to keep growing and expanding and have engagement be at an all-time high. Let's do it.
I do want to add one point as well to this discussion. Like when I speak, it is the theme of my presentation is that my smartest clients, my smartest readers, I mean, the real people that have been running businesses for decades, because there's all these, you always come across businesses. They're like, how are these guys still around? I mean,
Yeah.
they've come through good political administrations, good economies, bad economy. Like, what is going on? This company's been there for 60 years. And for years, like I interviewed so many people trying to find out the secret sauce, and I did find out. I mean, the smart people running companies, yeah, they get up early, they're good with people, they're innovative, all that you would think. But the one thing they have in common is that they're always looking ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're running their business now, but they're thinking 2, 3, 4 years ahead. They're thinking about hiring and investing and spending all those kinds of things so that they're still in business. That's what these
Yeah.
really smart people are doing.
Yeah.
So, and every attendee at a conference is looking for that. They're like, what do I need to know? Like, tell me the future. Now, not that you can, it's tough to tell the future, but the more help that conference organizers can give to their attendees, the more content, the better speakers that can tell them, listen, this is where like the world's going, at least over the next couple of years. And
Yep.
just some of the things you should be doing to navigate through all of that. That's exactly what they're trying to do. Cause we all I'm a business owner. I walk around terrified of that cliff that's,
Yeah.
can always happen. And we have people that are relying on us, to make good decisions. So we go to these industry conferences for content that gives us that advice, like what direction we should be going in. Very, very important stuff.
Yeah, that's a great point. I just want to back up to your tax example
Sure.
from the previous segment. One of my colleagues that I bounce, he's a small business owner, uses several freelancers exactly like I do. He's an app and web developer, has some really big accounts, some really sophisticated digital marketing, tennis tournaments, just real estate,
Cool.
complex shopping carts, really cool stuff. And they have a great aesthetic. And he just switched over to an S Corp.
Okay.
And I'm an S Corp.
Okay.
And we've known each other for 20 years. Oh, well, scratch that. We've known each other for 30 years.
Okay.
It's 92, 30, whatever years, do the math. When he told me that, I was almost like, I didn't feel bad, but I was like, I can't believe either he missed, because when I made that transition about 8 or 9 years ago,
Your point is like, you're just changing over now. Is that right? That's what you were thinking?
yeah, my head exploded. No, I was like, dude, either I didn't do as good of a job underlining how transformative it was for me. I mean, this is so corny. I'm kind of getting goosebumps. I remember the moment. I remember the moment. My accountant, my business confidant, he said, hey, look, you're going this direction. It's good news, but the other side of the coin is this. I strongly recommend this. And here's a resource. I did it. And I mean, my jaw, I'm still picking it up off the floor as far as the difference in liabilities.
Sure.
And my buddy, he's doing it, and it hasn't even like been deployed yet. And he's already like salivating just in the what it's freeing up for him to be able to do,
Yep. And that is just that's just one example. This work opportunity tax credit, you get a $9,600 credit from the government against your taxes, payroll taxes or income taxes. If you hire somebody that's either been unemployed for more than 6 months, out of the military, or off of welfare, or even somebody out of prison. And believe me, there are all these different programs among states and the federal government to help with rehabilitated prisoners to get them out there. And then every state has got these workforce development grants. If I was running like an association management company, if I was an event planning company, and we're all looking for people here, not only will the state, pay you to train these people, but then you get this giant tax credit as well if you were to go towards that population. And I've written about this in the Chicago Daily Herald and the Philly Inquirer about all these different companies that are taking advantage of people coming out of prison and taking advantage of these workforce development grants and the work opportunity tax credit, getting some really quality people and basically having the government help pay for a lot of it. That's like a perfect example of like a tax benefit that people don't seem to know about if
Sure.
you're running a business.
Yeah.
And, you come and you hear somebody speak about that stuff, you walk away saying like, holy mackerel, I should have been doing this ages ago. We need to, move on that. So that's the kind of stuff that I like to share when I speak.
It's, and I'm sure you have, a plethora, a potpourri, a wide range, a full basket of those stories. I want to shift the conversation a little bit, Gene. I'm loving this. You've interviewed or corresponded, interacted with some super memorable business owners. What are some of the words of wisdom they shared? Bethany Frankel, Suzanne Summers,
Queen Latifah recently.
Which one?
Queen Latifah.
Queen
Latifah.
Awesome. She's from New Jersey, isn't she?
She is. She's from Newark, New Jersey. That's exactly right. She had some stories to tell as well.
I bet.
She was awesome. Yeah. I mean, first of all, you can't generalize when you talk to successful people because different people have their different, sort of secret of success. They're different things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've talked to some people that are barely communicative, but like super geniuses when it comes to their technology, and their people love them because of their genius. I have other people that are not, some kind of, Elon Musk type, but they're very inspiring type people, and they can bring their people over, to do anything. But if I were to say, besides the smartest people I know always looking ahead, like I talked about, earlier, people, the smartest business owners that I meet just always are looking, thinking 2, 3, 4 years ahead. The other ones I know of, they really do focus on their people. I mean, they really get one of the lesson that I learned when I was running my little piddly business is that when I was just myself and my dad, 25 years ago, we weren't really making that much money because he would sell a job and then I would service it. It
Sure.
was only when I started hiring other people and then also bringing in some contractors as well, so that I could expand to 10 employees and then a dozen or so. You make money off of other people. I know that might sound a little bit crass, but that's the way it is. And if you provide a great work environment and challenging and a good place to work, that's a fair deal. But the smartest people that I know, besides looking ahead, they're always delegating. They're always, when something needs to be done, their first thing that comes to their mind is, who am I going to get to do this for me? So I can spend my time thinking and navigating this ship while other people are doing stuff. And this gets back to event planners and people in associations. I mean, I get it. When you involve other people, you are expanding the risk of things getting screwed up. And I get it. That's going to happen.
Yeah.
But it's always cost benefit when you look at these decisions. So accept the fact that you're going to have some screw ups, but look at, if you're trying to grow your business and if you're trying not to drive yourself crazy, the key to doing it is to surround yourself with better people. And then, of course, giving them tools, certain technology tools, to make sure that they're as productive as possible. That I've seen to be like a real common trait among
Yeah.
some of these like super successful business owners.
That's a great point. And you say the word crass. I look at it this way. I feel that it's more than a fair deal. What I keep my eyeball in, and I'm a pretty pedestrian thinker, Gene. You
Right.
know, where I try to do, not only do I want to support and foment my people, whether they're full-time freelancers or something in between, I want to make sure that they're served and they're taken care of, not overcompensating like, oh, what do you need? What do you need? But create an ambiance, create a culture, an environment, a habit of communication and being in
Yeah.
the space where, I wouldn't say naturally, but that I'm encouraging initiative, I'm encouraging throwing out ideas, making
Yeah.
choices, because in the end, yeah, you're only as strong as your weakest link and things are going to drop through the cracks. I'm okay with that. How do we respond to that? Or how does the team, deal with stuff when it drops? But on the other
Sure.
side of it, compensation, it's an agreement. If it's not working, that's a conversation to be had. And that's all part of the bigger picture of being a business operator and an owner. And it's no different for meeting professionals. Are you delegating? Do you feel overwhelmed? Meeting professionals do everything. I can't tell you how many professional keynote speakers I speak with every day that are just in awe of what meeting professionals do on site, off site, to keep the machine and the event running. It's incredible. But are you delegating? If you're feeling overwhelmed, it's not a magic bullet, but it's something that's going to alleviate the pressure. And while you need to trust your team, you're going to expand that trust, expand their capacities, and you're going to see people go from junior to senior. Create an environment where people are looking for and hungry for more responsibility. And you will see that running around like your chicken with a head cut off is not going to be the norm anymore.
I love when people resist giving up control. Like, oh, I'm a control freak, or I don't know. Again, like I have the opposite point of view. I mean, like if I can train my people to do everything for me, so I could just sit around and watch Netflix all day or go to the beach. I mean, like why are you doing all of this work when you can bring and elevate people to the area to do that? The other thing I've also found is, and again, I talk about this stuff as well. I'd like to share with my audience is everybody's looking for people. Everybody's trying to retain good people. And I'm not like a labor expert or an HR person or whatever, but I write about this stuff. So I like to share like some of the hot benefits that are happening each
Yeah.
year. And so when I speak, I like to share the hottest benefits that are out there. Mainly, I'm not an HR person or a labor attorney, but I write about this stuff. So, there's like the big three. There's health insurance and retirement, and flexibility is obviously huge. And I talk a lot about that, working from home and 4-day work weeks and all that. But there's other things. I mean, like half the workforce out there are like either millennials or
That's
Gen
true.
Z, and the average age of the U.S. business owner is 50.
And,
So,
and dare I remind everybody,
yeah,
millennials now are 40, 45, have kids and a
yes, yeah,
mortgage.
they're
So
older.
it's not like they're playing Game Boy in the garage.
Exactly right. And a lot of these people are going out and buying businesses. That's a whole other thing that I like to talk about is succession planning, because the millennials are a big part of that too. But when it comes to benefits, I mean, mental health is a huge, huge thing for employees right now. And there's some amazing mental health platforms that you can provide that benefit. And same day pay. I mean, people getting paid on the day that they work, which a lot of business owners will be like, "Are you kidding me?" But it's popular, and there are some good platforms
Yeah.
out there that help you do that. And employee stock ownership plans. There's a few others I dig into the details of, but you can't run a business today like you were running it 10 years ago. You can't be complaining because workers want to be working from home more, or because they're talking about their mental health challenges. I know that wasn't a thing when we were younger, because it was a
But it
stigma
is
back
now.
then, but it is now. It is now, right? And then so my smartest clients like
Yeah.
recognize that and lean into it, and we all have to be doing that as well. It's a different workplace in 2023, and we have to accept that.
Yeah, it's great. It's great advice. Gene, I could go on and on. I want to begin to dovetail this and dial it into what I'll call the finish here. Two things. AI, it's everywhere. I was in a meeting yesterday with my team, and we were forward thinking. We were the future interests me way
Good,
more. We're
good.
informed by the past. We're learning, and we write some really cool posts, I think, and we play between using AI as a tool, but it's not the end. And it's not like this aha moment, but we had a social media post that did markedly better than a lot of others. I did a short video about hot speakers. Everybody wants to chase the hot speaker. Gene Marks has this new book. It's surpassed Malcolm Gladwell and Simon
Right.
Sinek and Gary Vee, and he's the hot guy and everybody wants him. And the title that we landed on was, don't just go for the hottie, or choose some play on words, right? And it's PG-13, but it was still cool, right? And I
I get
thought
it. Yeah.
AI would never come up with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it really depends. It really does depend. I mean, listen, AI is there's some common myths about AI that, again, I talk about. AI has been a hot topic for speaking, because everybody's interested in it, and because I cover it for Forbes 6 times a month. I've learned a lot about it, and I have a lot to share. First of all, your AI chatbots like ChatGPT, they're just assistants.
Right. They don't
They're
they
just
don't
helping you do your
see,
job better.
smell,
Yeah,
hear, touch,
right,
period.
right. But they're your friend. And like ChatGPT, as it evolves, and let's not forget that ChatGPT is still trained on data that ended in September
Correct.
of
Correct.
2021. So, there's a limit to that. Although Google Bard is very current on the most recent data. But, as these things evolve, it's like you have like a personal assistant that's your best friend, that's operating in your best interest. I'm going to go and do this podcast. I'm going to go and meet some. I'm going to be speaking to this group. I'm going to be running this event. What advice do you have? What are some good,
Right.
caterers that I should get for this? What do you think should be the size? You will literally, as it gets smarter and smarter and starts evaluating not only your internal data but external data, you're going to be turning to your AI assistant to just
Yeah.
help you do things,
Yeah.
and make you smarter. And that's a really
I don't know.
it's like
The
no, no,
way
no.
I've
Go
been
ahead. What's the
using it,
perfect example?
it kind of builds the ground for me to stand on a little bit,
It's a great idea. It's
and
great.
then from there I put my own tone and aesthetic on it, and I trim out a lot of what they vomit out. But if there's two or three or
Yes.
four nuggets that I can build a foundation on to get my motor going, it saved me time,
Yep. So when people ask me, like, and again, my audience are businesses. So they're like, "Oh, how will AI be affecting my business?" So, and I usually have two pieces of advice. The first is, actually three, but the main two that I have is, don't you worry about AI. let your software vendors worry about AI because they're the ones that want you to continue to pay their monthly
Right.
fees. So you should be talking to your software vendors a couple times a year and beating them up and asking them, well, what new features do you have? How should I be using your AI in my business? What can I be doing
Right.
more with my application that I'm paying you for? But trust me when I tell you, they have every incentive to get you to use their AI. They're spending the billions on it. We don't need to as business owners, but we have a responsibility for understanding it and leveraging it and using it, not being afraid of
Yeah.
it. So that's number one. And then the second thing is if you really want to stay current on AI, I mean, just follow Microsoft and Google. Microsoft owns half of ChatGPT. All of ChatGPT runs on Microsoft's Azure platform. So they essentially, I mean, they're running this, OpenAI, which is the owner of ChatGPT. And man, I got to tell you, some of the things they're working on right now that's coming out in the next few months with Office, just beside it's called Microsoft Copilot. And not only will it help you do all sorts of things in Word and Excel and PowerPoint better, but like I'll give you an example. You will be, as of like next year, you will be able to attend more than one meeting in Teams at the same time. So like you go to one meeting and then you tell Copilot to attend the other
Oh
meeting on your
boy.
behalf. It listens in on the meeting. It provides you with a transcript, a summary, and then if your name is mentioned during the meeting, it will assign you tasks in Outlook based on
Oh,
that meeting. And you never even
that's
attended
brilliant.
it. So
That's
I know.
brilliant.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's crazy. But listen, if you're running a business and you're smart, you'll
Yeah.
learn that stuff and you'll
Yeah.
leverage it. And now you can have that one employee instead of two doing that work, which saves
Yeah.
you money and makes you that
Yeah.
much more productive. It's
Yeah.
huge stuff. It's huge
That's really
stuff.
cool. Well, let's move into the last portion, which we do with our guests, our esteemed guests from the Jersey Shore. The part where we call it 20 questions. These are rapid fire answers. We don't need to
Yep.
give the whole, Freudian couch lay down, and we prefer the quick ones. You ready?
Yeah. Here, let me chocolate, The Godfather, The Sopranos,
Okay, we're
and The
pretty much
Phillies. How do
done.
we do?
Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. All right, here we go.
Okay.
Scrapple or turtle soup? Chocolate ice
Scrapple.
cream or vanilla ice cream?
Gotta be
What's the
chocolate.
most interesting thing about you that we wouldn't learn from your resume?
That I watch a hell of a lot of television because I travel so much.
What's the last book you read?
I'm reading I just finished the second in a three-part series. I read a lot of novels. And it is a book that takes place in Pompeii. And why I'm like all of a sudden just blanking on the name of the book, but it was excellent.
It'll come back.
Um, yeah, it'll
That's
come
really
back to me.
cool. What's the last movie you saw?
I, I I have not seen a movie in 5 years. I think the last movie I actually saw was Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in
Oh, that's a good
Hollywood,
one.
because we just stream everything. Who goes to movie theaters anymore?
If
My
you have
God.
if you have young children, you go to the Barbie movie.
Yes, yes. Or you
Yeah.
like Barbie? Yes,
What's
right.
something on your bucket list that you're looking to knock off?
I want to go back to Pompeii after reading this book. We visited it last year, and I put it back on my bucket list because I really want to go back
Remote
to it.
work, is it here to stay?
My company is fully virtual. All 10 of us work from home. We've been doing it since 2005, and I officially run the world's most dysfunctional company because there is a lot of problems running a virtual company.
Gene,
Yes, it is here.
sidebar offline. We're going to have to call
Yes.
Guinness and get you as the most dysfunctional company because that is something that you could really hang your hat on.
Thank you very much. Very proud to say that. We definitely have cut down on our overhead, but I can assure you that there are some great things and some real
Yeah.
problems with running a
Yeah.
fully virtual company. Having said that, yes, of course, remote work is absolutely here to stay. It is complete reality. And let's also admit that those millennials were telling us about this way before COVID, and we kept on
Yeah.
ignoring them, saying no. And then COVID hit, and then we're all working from home. We're like, holy shit, they
Right.
were right
They're
the whole time.
brilliant.
So, yeah, they're brilliant. They're brilliant. So it's around. It's definitely here to
If
stay.
you could hang out with any business leader in the world for a day, who would it be?
Without question, to me, it would be Bill
Mm,
Gates.
okay. Very cool. Well,
I have a story about Bill Gates
I'd
before
like
I
to
let you
hear it.
go.
I
Can I
think that
just?
that would be the great
Uh,
cap to our
we didn't.
encounter.
We didn't actually hang out, but we were both speaking at a similar conference. I think his fees were probably a
Little
little
bit.
bit higher than mine. Yeah, but anyway, and it was in Los Angeles, and I think it was at the Century Towers hotel that we were at. Anyway, I was on a very high floor. Apparently, he was too, because I got on the elevator all alone. It went down one floor. He gets in the elevator. This is like 15 years ago. He was still like CEO of Microsoft, and he gets in the elevator, and it's just me and him for the entire way down. Now, remember, I write about technology. My company's a Microsoft partner. I had Bill Gates
Okay,
alone in the
I can't
elevator for this
resist. I can't
entire ride.
resist. Did you just say, "Hey, dude, my Windows 98 update is stuck. Can you Control Alt Delete me here?" Sorry.
As tempting as it was to say that, I completely clammed up. I was like starstruck. I mean, we went the whole not of the whole thing. We're kind of looking at each other, looking at the whole way down. Anyway, I was meeting a friend for dinner. We get down to the lobby. The elevator doors open, and it's me and Bill Gates in the elevator. And my friend was standing right there, and his jaw dropped. And I turned to Bill Gates, and I stuck out my hand, and I said, "Bill, it was great speaking with you." And he shook my hand, and I was still wearing the name tag from the conference. And he looked at my name tag and he was like, "Gene, I'm going to take your suggestions right to our development team. Thank you
Oh
very
my
much." And
God.
he just
That is brilliant. You know,
story.
it's
He didn't
that
miss
is
a beat.
brilliant. That is brilliant. You know, it's not easy to play the straight man.
You should have seen my friend. Was like, "Oh my God, what
That
did you
is a
tell
great, that
me?"
is a great
It was
story.
fun.
That is a
It
great
was
story.
fun.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Well, Gene, it has been just a delight. You know, I'm really excited to be working with you, to know you on a
Me
whole
too.
different level. And I know that our listeners are smarter for our conversation. So just thank you so much for your generosity of spirit, taking time out of the Jersey Shore with or without Snooki and just being with us today.
Thank you for having me on. And by the way, the book is called The Wolf's Den. It's a trilogy, takes
Okay.
place in Rome, and I absolutely loved it and highly recommend it. Don't know the author, but I really enjoyed it.
That's cool. All righty. Thanks for spending time with us today. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe to our content. We'll keep bringing you the latest industry news and insights. Don't forget to follow us on social media so you never miss an update. And if you're looking for a keynote speaker for your next event, reach out to us directly or visit our website at thekeynotecurators.com.